Alright, the Polaris is officially broken in. I'm going to do a review of it now that I've got some ride time on it. Been busy riding it, not doing reviews, but so I guess I'll start at the front and work my way back on this one. Up front, you see your front diff is vented right here, which is pretty high. I don't foresee having too many problems with that, but I'm going to snorkel everything up to the top of the roll cage just for paranoia's sake. Nice big coolant reservoir. I don't know what this is. Some kind of plug. It's probably something stupid. The front diff is mounted extremely low down, like as low as you can get. It's pretty much touching the bottom skid plate, which is brilliant for center of gravity. Something Can-Am hasn't figured out. It's also really compact because it's got no gears in it. It's got that, I mean, it's a ring and pinion, but there's no actually spider gears. Front diff works really well. You see there's no angle on these axles. I got the preload set at 0 still. Everything's straight. Front sway bar, really nice because this thing is really skinny. It's the 50-inch, so that makes a big difference. Really beefy though, like the arms are spread out, you know, but they bolt to the frame like by like 1.5 feet or something. So this thing is definitely meant to take some abuse without having major issues. Nice brakes. Stops really well for single piston or 2 piston calipers up front. Yep. I wish this arm was arched, right? Because we're losing a ton of ground clearance here. So those are going to get replaced. Big radiator. It could be located higher up, but it's fine. The fan is kind of chintzy. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't fit real close to it. The shroud's kind of minimal, but it hasn't got hot or anything, so I can't complain about it too much yet. What else about the front? There's no front bumper, but the front is kind of stout. It's like the Can-Am. There's a lot of bumpers available for it, but I think they all look obnoxious, so I probably won't put one. Comes with 26s stock. Pretty good sized tire. See, it's got the holes down here for mounting a Nerf bar to. I use it for strapping down in the truck. Doors are really nice. Once you get them adjusted right. The dealership, bless their heart, they were putting it together for me on a Saturday night, staying late. Left these bolts kind of loose and missed one there, so the door was real rattly, but I got it lined up pretty good. I'll take care of all that. They also have the tilt steering wheel, which is really sweet. Under your driver's seat, your battery, your fuse panel. Nice drains in the floor that pop out. Super candy. Use that a lot already. You got your 4-wheel drive switch and your headlights. It locks in immediately. Super sweet. And it pulls both front wheels. Unlike a Can-Am, this thing is a locker at all speeds. I mean, it pulls both front wheels. Shifter feel, super nice. You can just hear, I mean, it just sounds like quality. You can always get the right gear. You never have to rock it back and forth the way that transmission is designed. 100,000 times more quality feel than the plastic Can-Am when you're like stretching and twisting on it and like yanking the bike back and forth. Feels very quality. You got your computer back here. It's mounted pretty high up. I did pull off the intake shroud so you can see upper skirt a little bit. It's pretty dirty here. I haven't cleaned it yet, but so this is your belt intake. Brilliant, right? You see how the air has to go up in there. Air's fine going up like that. Water's not. So if water does dump in through here, which is like its main breather spot, it'll splash on it and not go in your belt. I kind of wish they had the same thing on the air intake because I think it's a pretty smart idea. Here's your air intake over here, up in here, so air flows in there, then in here. Nice foam to keep some of the heat from the exhaust and the belt exhaust from getting in your engine. Big old air box, big ass air filter in there. I'm not taking it off. One thing I did notice that I thought was kind of stupid, this is your fuel tank breather. They had it located, how can I show you where it was located? It was located in the frame rail, right down here, pretty deep in the frame rail, which was full of water already because, yeah, I went in some water. So I already located it up there. Eventually that's going to get run up into the roll cage with everything else. I'm just going to probably drill a hole in the roll cage right around here somewhere and run all my vent lines pretty far up in there. Yep. Coming back this way, they've got a nice little trunk cover that comes off real easy. So even when this hood, that hood, is on here, you can still access the top of your motor. Pretty simple layout. So air intake flows here. Fly-by-wire throttle. I kind of was, you know, if it doesn't break, great, but it's something more electronic to worry about. But it works great so far. Really good exponential curve. Gives you really good control of how much power you're using at low speeds, you know, and then when you need it wide open, it's right there. So happy with that. Nice giant belt, intake and exhaust. Keep your belt cool. You can see where the belt exhaust is right there, that metal grate. So it kind of blows onto the engine. You can see it better right here. There's your belt exhaust. Not crazy about where that's located. That's gonna have to come up higher, but I mean, it is smart. For water to get in there, you'd have to be completely stopped in water this deep. So, you know, it'll probably be okay for a little while, but I need to find a way to bring it up. Both of these, I mean, they're located really high. I don't really need to mess with them, but I'm going to. This side, you get your gas tank, your fuel pump's in the gas tank. I'm not pulling all this off. I'll do that on the next one. Passenger handle. Glove box has stayed dry. People do say it gets water in it, though. 2 cup holders. Yeah, you know, pretty sweet. I do wish it had some more protection. You see this is kind of scratched up, and these decals are all screwed up already. That was the sum total of damage from me tipping it on its side, though. So, I don't know. I can't really complain. I was going in a left-hand corner, which had a right-hand bank to it, and I was kind of seeing if it would flip. And then once I hit the throttle hard enough, it did. But it was controlled, and it was nice and slow. It wasn't too scary. So it is 50 inches narrow. You can see how it's perfectly flat with the tire down the side. I ordered some 1-inch wheel spacers to get the wheels to stick out some more. That'll protect my body, and eventually I'll probably do a very minimal Nerf bar down here to give it like another inch. Something I can pull off real easy if I'm going to do state trails that need to be state trail legal. The back suspension, really beefy like the front. It's also, you can see that this is at an angle. It's not like straight like on the Hondas or a lot of other independent suspension. So they've got some of that, you know, kind of trailing arm, I don't know, racy inspired geometry going on there. I don't know how else to describe it. Nice brakes on both sides, unlike my Can-Am. Trailer hitch, very cool. There's the rear diff. It's not actually a differential, but people call it that. There's no diff in there. Nice big exhaust system. Pretty good exhaust note stock. There is your rectifier, which is a known problem on these. I already ordered one to have it in stock for when it fails, because they fail a lot. You got a wire harness down here. Goes up to your computer, right? Because your computer's mounted right up in here. That's the wire harness for your computer, right there. But yeah, so the wiring, a lot of it is down pretty far. I'm not a fan of that. It's gonna get wet a lot. There's the U-joint that goes up to the front end. Goes through that floorboard right there. It's laid out pretty well. Everything's pretty easy to get to that I've come across so far. Definitely feels more quality than Can-Am. The plastics don't feel that chintzy. The frame is, you know, definitely not paper thin. It is a side-by-side, so it needs a thicker frame, and it was, I don't know, twice as expensive as the Can-Am, but my first initial impression with the Can-Am was that everything felt like shit. It was chintzy and like just minimal, and this thing feels like a lot more like a quality product. There's our 900cc twin cylinder engine. The exhaust already looks like shit after 2 rides, but whatever, I don't care. Water pump. There's the shifter mechanism. Really nice. Very happy with all that so far. This is the trail model, so it's 50 inches narrow, but you have short CV joints, which means the biggest lift high lifter sells is a 1-inch. Other people do sell a 2-inch lift for it, but I'm gonna probably just do the 2-inch lift and 4-inch portals. So that'll give me 6 inches, and then I'll put those tractor tires, the BKTs, on here. But that's a little bit down the road. I'm gonna try to keep it stock and just roll it for a little while. I am gonna crank up the preload on my shocks, because you can see right now I have pretty much no angle on my CV joints, so a little more ground clearance would not hurt. It is kind of low under the center. You definitely feel it high center a lot. You can see where I've like gouged it once right here on some rocks. But I mean, nice big thick plastic skid plate. I actually kind of prefer a plastic skid plate. They find they slide better than a aluminum one. Here's your front U-joint for your front diff. Coolant lines. All routed really nice. I mean, everything's tucked up in there. They give it as much clearance as it could in areas where it, you know, could afford to have it. But yeah, pretty quality product. I do wish it had a little more ground clearance, but I realize they're trying to keep it as low as possible to make it stable for how narrow it is. I mean, very beefy. I definitely, you know, would trust this thing to flip with me in it, and I'd probably come out okay even if I was doing, you know, whatever 75 miles an hour it goes. Up under the dash, not a whole lot in here. What else did I want to say about it? Power's really good. Low range isn't quite as low as I'd like it to be. The 570 trail has a lot lower gears, so I'm probably going to do that gear reduction on it. The gauge is kind of tiny, like where it reads your RPMs at is right here. It's real small. I wish that gauge was bigger and maybe centered in front of the driver where it's easier to pay attention to your RPMs. Unlike the Can-Am, it does show you your engine temperature and stuff like that. More functions on the gauge. Nice. These warning labels are obnoxious, and Stephanie needs to peel them off. Cage is pretty nice. I do hate looking at this pipe. I'm going to finally find a way to get rid of it. Just cut it off there. And I don't know, maybe, you know, tie it into the back or something to beef it up. But I hate looking at a pipe right in front of my face. I don't know. I might take the cage off altogether. Fuck it. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. And it really is trail friendly. You can go anywhere you can go on a four-wheeler. The only difference I found that it's plenty narrow enough. It fits down all my little tight four-wheeler trails I ride all the time. But you do end up reversing sometimes in some sharp S turns if you can't break the back end loose, because it does have a long wheelbase. So its turning radius suffers due to the wheelbase. Unlike the Polaris four-wheelers, the belt is extremely easy to access, and I will be carrying a spare belt on every ride I go on. It's already on order. Yeah, I got a Polaris one. It was expensive, but whatever. I could change that belt insanely fast, you know, and it does have a nice drain on the belt housing. The frame is just beautiful. All the welds and the geometry and the way it's all braced, it's very, very much a quality feel, which is not something I'm used to seeing on American products. Has nice rubber mounted engine mounts all the way around, so you get good isolation. You know, you don't feel a lot of the vibration from the motor. I do have a slight vibration at really high speeds. It'll probably go away once it breaks in. I feel like it's like a brake thing or something. Another than the other rubber engine mount. You can see it has the extra heat shields, because I guess there was a recall where these things are catching on fire. So the dealership installed that before I took it home. All these extra heat shields. Took them a little while, but I guess it's good that my bike shouldn't catch on fire. The seatbelts are hilarious. So this thing, if you don't have your seatbelt on, I was told it was limited to 15 miles an hour, which I'm sure it is, but it also has no torque. Like, put your seatbelt on or you won't be able to spin the tires. I was really disappointed it was getting stuck. Put the seatbelt on, hit the gas, got right out of it. So yeah, pro tip. I'm sure there's a way to go in here and bypass the harness or just get a thing to stick in there to trick it, but I'll get around to that eventually. The steering ratio is good. I didn't get power steering because I'm not a bitch. But sometimes at certain situations, it'll kind of yank the steering wheel out of your hand, even with stock offset. So I am worried that once I go with a wider offset, steering effort may be increased significantly. But I mean, whatever. I'll suck it up. Steering stabilizer would be nice too. Most of the suspension has greasable fittings on it, which is a big plus for me because, yeah, I go in mud and water and stuff, so do the sway bars. No back bumper either, which is disappointing because I know I'm going to run into something in the back because I'm not used to having to look behind me. Four-wheelers, you can have better visibility. So I'm going to probably buy a little something to protect the back. The bed area is nice, so usually there's a piece of plastic right here, obviously. These little plastic tie-downs work okay for bungee cords, and then it's got some metal ones back here, which the same thing it has on the front to pull the bike out with. Kind of chintzy, really. Like, I don't know what the hell kind of winch hook they expect to fit in here, like up in there like that. I'm going to definitely find some kind of nice bolt or something, or some big U to put there to have a better tow point. I also ordered the winch kit, so I guess it replaces this piece and gives me a roller fairlead mount. I'm going to put a winch on it for sure, because it's heavy and you can't push this thing out of anything. You can see it does have the brake plastic scraper technology to increase the life of your brake pads. Hopefully better than my Can-Am, which are pathetic. The CV boots are real squishy. They're not those lifetime boots Honda and Can-Am were using, which I guess is good because Can-Am couldn't put their bands on right and mine were leaking from the factory. You have cast steel knuckles, no aluminum fancy knuckles up front, unlike the Can-Am. The front diff is really neat how it works. I could probably talk about it all day, but all you really need to know is that when you need four-wheel drive, it'll be there and you'll have both front wheels pulling. The only time I found it to be a problem was going downhill. The front diff is geared significantly lower than the back diff. It's kind of the principle it works upon. And so yeah, there are situations where the front won't be pulling when you'd kind of like it to be to help you steer. But other than that, I mean, that's not really a big deal. You can steer with the throttle, whip the back end around. But the front diff is neat. And you'll notice if you watch the other video, there's a hole I came out of where the front wheels are off the ground. The back wheels stop and the front just still spinning, freewheeling. That's kind of another principle of how they work. Pretty neat. The tie rods are beefy as hell. Hell yeah. Really impressed with it. Everything feels beefy in quality, and the amazing thing is all this beef only weighs 1,150 pounds, which isn't much more than most 1000cc four-wheelers. So yeah, definitely pretty impressive. They put the weight where they needed to, but they didn't add a lot in stupid places. The cage has lots of nice pre-drilled mounts, very beefy welded in bung, so you could add the piece that wraps around to the back, or add speakers or whatever accessories they make for this thing. There's tons of options, but very nice cage, very strong. Very impressed with it. I wish I wouldn't have done this. This is making me sick. But I mean, that's all the damage that occurred, and it was a pretty good incident, so not too disturbed.